Hey, are you planning to get an updated COVID-19 vaccine?
Yep. I don't want to get seriously sick and miss out on spending time with friends and family.
Does it cost a lot? I don't have insurance.
If you don't have health insurance, or if your insurance doesn't cover an updated COVID-19 vaccine, you can get one for free with the Bridge Access program. Just look for places that participate in Bridge Access on vaccines.gov.
Sounds good. Bridge Access on vaccines.gov.
A message from CDC.
Fruitloops. We're doing a video club. I'm Wendy. That's Beth. And then there's Minnie. And Marlene is joining us. Yay! I don't have my sound effect board. I would do an applause. And we're Fruitloops. And we watched We Own This City, a no, it's not a documentary. It's a show, and it's on HBO, and it's based on the book by Baltimore Sun reporter. His name is Justin Featon. And they wrote We Got a Monster. And that's what we watched last month. And we were like, yeah, let's check out the dramatization of all this nonsense going on in Baltimore. And I am glad we did. The series chronicles the rise and fall of the Baltimore Police Department Gun Trace Task Force and the corruption and moral collapse that befell an American city in which the policies around drug prohibition and mass arrest were championed at the expense of actual police work and human beings. It was directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, written by David Simon, and HBO has a companion podcast, which leads me to my next point.
Yeah, I listened
a companion
to that
podcast.
too.
Oh, yeah. I listened to it when it first came out and then went back and revisited it. And it is hosted by D. Watkins, and it's just called We Own This City, HBO official podcast or something like that. But it's really good. And most of the actors are from Baltimore. Oh. Baltimore has a whole economy since The Wire started of production and TV and movie production there. And so a lot of the crew, a lot of the actors are from Baltimore.
And a lot of them, I learned on that podcast, were like kids when The Wire was being filmed, and they were like hanging around the set, and they let them hang around the set, and they taught them things, and they went into the industry. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool how full circle that all came. So I think since we basically know what happened,
story,
I just want this to be, I don't know if anybody disagrees with me. I'm not really good at making rules, but just takes and thoughts. What are your takes and thoughts?
This is such a good series.
I couldn't
really
agree
good.
more.
Yeah. And casted perfectly. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of our favorite cast. I loved John Bernthal.
Yeah.
He's so good. And he grew up in Washington, D.C. in a suburb of Maryland, not quite Baltimore, but you know, he
knows
nailed
the
it.
area.
And I love John Bernthal, but he did such a good job of playing this
being an asshole.
I was like, for a second, I had to like shake my head, like, oh, wait, he's acting. You don't have to hate John Bernthal personally.
No.
Yeah, as a person, he seems pretty cool. But this character was a total asshole. Yeah.
Total asshole.
Although
it wasn't enough, honestly. To me, he was not enough of an asshole.
Well,
wait a minute.
Explain. So when they, listening to that podcast again, they said they were trying to present a character who was complex, wasn't just, you know,
an asshole,
a monster.
I think they did a good job of that with all the police officers who ended up getting popped.
Yeah.
Is you saw kind of at the beginning, they wanted to be good police, but they were trained by bad
to
police.
be bad
and
police,
and the cycle just continued.
It was systemic. That was what I felt like they pointed out, was that the whole thing was systemic. I speaking of the cast, the lady who
it's Succession night. I hope everybody enjoys their evening watching the season finale of Succession. I'm excited. But Carolina is a character on Succession, and that same actress was in this show. I don't know her name, but she played Detective FBI Lady Jensen.
Was she the flautist?
FBI, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so that actress was talking about in that podcast how she was sort of drawn to this story and talked about she immigrated from Poland to the United States when she was a child. And her relationship with police was really fascinating to me, as she's a white immigrant, but back in Poland, her grandfather was beaten to death by the police.
Oh my God.
Her father, the police in Poland came and raided her house, took her father out, put him in jail for a year. So she's always been afraid of police. And she was like, I'm never going to pretend to be like a Black person in the United States and have and what that might be like. But she totally understood not trusting police and law enforcement. And I just thought that was really, really like a neat tidbit to know about her as an actress. Yeah. Who else? Oh, the Black lady who was the DOJ attorney,
Nicole.
Nicole.
She was fantastic.
Love her. She was in Lovecraft Country. And I will just say, as a plus size woman, I am often disappointed by how they dress plus size women in TV shows. But her looks and outfits were so, I was just like, where can I get an outfit like that? Like when she goes to Goodwill to donate that, I want it to for myself, because her outfits were just so, they dressed her so well, like classy and in some parts kind of sexy, like when her arms were showing and some of those officey outfits. And I just really enjoyed that.
Something else interesting about her is she's English, or she's originally from Nigeria, but lived in the UK, and she has an English accent.
What else did any other thoughts about the cast?
Well, when you were mentioning The Wire earlier, the guy that played Sean Suter, he was actually in The Wire as a kid.
Oh, no.
He was like a young gangbanger type kid in The Wire. Yeah.
Ooh, we'll talk about that Sean Suter in a minute. But I didn't know that. I've seen 2 episodes.
I had
to
look him up because I kept seeing his face. I'm like, I know him from something. What do I know him from? And I looked it up. I'm like, oh my God, he was that kid in The Wire.
Wow.
So,
and The Wire was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they talked
cool.
about it as kind of like a reunion. Because there were a lot of people who worked on The Wire that worked on this project as well.
They brought a lot of people back, which I, again, really enjoyed. And understanding that there is a whole economy of creators who can make a living making film and TV in the city of Baltimore is really like exciting to know, right?
Yeah, I think that's
can go
so
there.
cool.
You don't have to go all the way to Hollywood or New York or whatever. You can, give back to your city by telling these amazing stories. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Who
Marlene,
else?
you got any thoughts?
I was Wayne Jenkins. And we're talking about him. His hair though just got
He ought to be ashamed of himself because he was so confident, like as an individual, and like thought he was the hottest shit, like going to the strip clubs, throwing all these women money. Like if you have a haircut like that, the answer is no.
And that beard at the end.
Yeah.
It's like a Amish beard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. His beard, the beard department could use some work, I will say. With his
I also thought Herschel was kind of a bigger asshole right there.
Yeah, he was disgusting.
Yeah. And was that guy in the Wire?
No, he was in Dead Poets Society. I had to look him up too. He was another one. I was like, I know him as a young person. What was he in?
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in a ton of stuff. Or maybe he was in The Wire. I don't know. But I knew him from Dead Poets Society.
Got it. Yeah.
My captain.
Oh, that's Robin Williams, right?
Yep.
Rest in peace. So one thing that I noticed is the intro. I watched it on every episode.
Oh,
intro,
I love the intro.
It was good.
Yeah. The music,
The
and all the
images.
real images from Baltimore really like was just another chef's kiss element that really like drove home the point that this is a Baltimore story. This is real. And I was checking out on Reddit because some people thought this was fiction.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah. And they were like blown away when they realized this really happened.
Yeah. So I was curious about that too, because I don't remember when it happened. I don't remember reading about it. And, you know, I'm usually on top of the news, and they made a point in the podcast that this all broke during the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
We were
shit was
distracted
happening
by
every
some
fucking
other
day.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that must be why I missed it.
There was a lot going on at that time.
There was.
You know,
yeah.
one of my thoughts that I jotted down was the parallels between Trump and Jenkins. Did anybody kind of just how brazen they both were?
And just like you're above the law.
Above the law,
and completely motivated by greed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And narcissism. Yeah.
What else? Oh, this was interesting. I learned this from the HBO podcast about the show, about that Frederick Douglass lived in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And it turns out, and the intro made me connected this in my brain. Baltimore has a really rich history that I hadn't even considered about music, jazz, that trumpet that's playing during the intro is really rad. There is Thurgood Marshall is from Baltimore. Billie Holiday is from Baltimore. Montel Williams is from there. Ta-Nehisi Coates.
I forgot about Montel Williams.
Yeah. And then the late Lance Riddick, who was in The Wire, is also from Bayer, or from Baltimore. So rest in power to that man who didn't die that long ago. And then what's my next thought? Oh, just how powerful police are. But then they want everybody else to follow the law. But they don't have to do it, which is so
fucked up.
Wild. Yeah. And I don't know how anybody else feels about police abolition after watching this, but I'm more convinced than ever.
Yeah. I can see how people would think it's fiction because it is so
bizarre.
Hard to believe.
Oh my, my friend and I, we binged it and finished the last one today earlier. And then, it was just it's astonishing, really. I'm like, what? This actually happened?
Yeah. Going in people's houses, hunting people for their money and their drugs, and people lost lives like that scene. I didn't appreciate this in the documentary, but had a real appreciation for what happened to that man. They stole $10,000 from him.
Yeah.
He owed it to a drug dealer, and they killed him on his front steps in front of his little girl. And then that family who that man was talking about, he just cashed his check, was taking pizza home to his family. He, they affected people's livelihoods, people's abilities to get jobs. Like it really, the ripple effects are infinite.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job showing that. How it affected all these people. There was the one interview they were doing with one of the cops, and they were talking about the guy, I forget what his name was, Devon, the one they stole $10,000 from and was killed. They asked him about that, and he was like, we just took money, didn't hurt anybody. And they're like, no. Yeah, he died because you took that money. And the look on his face was priceless. Yeah. Because he didn't realize it, or it's it was
the narrative they were telling themselves in order to be okay with continuing to do it.
Right.
Like, you've got to tell yourself this story in order to be able to do it. And I don't know if they did to me, I don't know if they did a good enough job at really saying that they were. I don't know how to say this. They weren't all drug dealers, that they were stealing from.
Yeah.
And even if they were stealing from drug dealers, this is just not how you go about police work,
Yeah.
And I think in some ways they didn't make it clear enough that a lot of the people weren't even doing anything wrong. They didn't make it clear enough that they were planting guns on people and then arresting them for that, and planting drugs on people and then arresting them for that, and then using that as an excuse to take their money. So I don't think they did a good enough job of making that clear, like they were just going nuts on anybody in the city.
They were like cowboys.
People who were vulnerable, and people who were just trying to make ends meet, and then having everything taken from them by the cops, basically.
They Yeah, they're definitely milking the clock.
Oh yeah.
And
oh my God.
And it was also to get their stats up too. Like
yes, which is why the theory of police doing good work perpetuates itself. Look at all the guns they're getting off the street. Look at all the drugs they're getting off the street. We got to give these people more money. Defund the police? No way. Look at how good their numbers are. And it becomes a numbers game when it should be a people and community game. Abolish the police. Anyway.
It's basically creating crime in order to create stats.
Excellent point, Marlene. Yeah.
That's what it says too. It said, I had written this down. It said, in a city of 620,000, BPD cops reported over 300,000 pedestrian stops in the last 5 years.
Oh my God.
And less than 4% resulted in a citation/arrest.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Out of 300,000 pedestrian stops.
That is insane.
They're terrorizing
people.
The entire city.
Just people,
Yeah.
Just people. Because I think if you spin it that, oh well, this is only happening to drug dealers, then people can kind of like, oh well, that's okay then. It's okay if they're, not doing the right thing. At least they're stopping drug dealers, but that's not what they were doing.
What they were doing. Yeah.
They were creating crimes in order to, steal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I will shout from the top of the mountains that I think police and prison should be abolished. But this whole system that sort of came from colonialism, from the theft of people's land and life and liberty for, America to be formed, right? Police were really just policing indigenous bodies and Black bodies. And that now it's evolved to what we have now. And I think it's really disgusting. I think it's vile. But it's a system, right? That was created by people. And I think that is a hopeful thought, because it could also be a system that is improved or dismantled by people, if we have the will to do so. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Fruitloops Serial Killers of Color is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing right.
That's right. So think about, where are you already crushing it? And think of some things that you might want to keep the same about yourself and your life in 2024.
Maybe you finally organized one part of your space and you want to tackle another.
Oh, man, relax. Or maybe you're taking your supplements every morning and now you want to actually eat breakfast too.
So therapy helps you find your strengths, not just, where you're having trouble. So you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick.
So we here at Fruit Loops have all used BetterHelp, and it was just what we needed and worked really well for us. For me, it was right on time, and I knew that I needed help. I got in touch with a therapist online, lickety-split, and cut to now I've learned to love myself and be kinder to myself, which has improved my relationships and how I get through the day.
And it's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma.
Right. So celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/fruit today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/fruit.
Greetings from Evergreen Podcasts. We're rolling out a listener survey and we want to hear from you. The information in the survey will help us gather statistics and in turn make our shows more appealing to advertisers. I know most people don't like ads, but this is one of the only ways our shows make money and help keep their lights on. We promise it will only take a few minutes, but the impact on our podcasts will be tremendous. As a token of our appreciation, we'll randomly select one lucky participant each month to win an exclusive merchandise package from Evergreen Podcasts. Head to evergreenpodcast.com/listener survey to help a show and possibly get some free stuff for doing so. We can't thank you enough for the support. Now back to the show.
So what you were saying actually triggered something that well, today we went to the Fort Edmonton Park, and they have this new Indigenous Peoples Experience exhibit there, and it's really good. So if anybody's in the Edmonton area, you should definitely go to the Fort Edmonton Park and check out the new Indigenous Peoples Experience exhibit, because it kind of Fort Edmonton Park tells the story of settlement from the perspective of the white person. And so this one is sort of trying to also add, okay, well, this is from the perspective of the Indigenous peoples, what happened to them from their experience. And then one of the little placards on there was mentioning that people often talk about the Blackfoot and the Cree fighting with each other, but the truth is that they did not fight with each other until the Europeans came and took just about everything, because then there were limited resources, and then they began to fight because there were resources that they were, they
fighting over crumbs. Yeah,
right.
They got us. They got us out here fighting for crumbs. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's white supremacy.
And and there's so many ways that it is perpetuated, and it's still that, there's this ongoing theme, I think, in some of our recent talks of the divide and conquer kind of, so it's like keep people distracted by this, and then they don't pay attention to the really bad that's happening up above,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful
I don't know where I was going with that point,
but I like it. Shout out the name of that place again. What's the monument called?
Oh, yeah. So it's the Indigenous Peoples Experience exhibit at the Fort Edmonton Park. So if you're in the Edmonton area, stop by and check it out.
Right on.
Yeah.
I had a thought that what they showed us was going on in Baltimore was, it was so wide and so deep, but this is not the only police department here on this continent that is doing this or engaging
kind of thing.
In this kind of fuckery. Yeah.
Maybe worse or not as bad, but it's got to be happening
a lot of places. I'm thinking of the LA County Sheriff and that nonsense that's going on over there in their gangs. You get brownie points for murdering people. Yeah.
What do they call that gang?
There's many. There's dozens of LA County Sheriff's gangs, and they are white supremacists.
Wait, this sounds like this sounds like the death squads that you're talking about in Brazil.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And they have tattoos that identify
and this
them.
is sanctioned by are they?
They're not doing anything about it.
They're not doing anything about it.
They're just turning the other cheek.
But there's a new LA County Sheriff now.
Turning a blind eye.
Yes, there's a new LA County Sheriff now. He is trying to fix the problem, and several LA County sheriffs are being subpoenaed to testify about their involvement in LA County Sheriff gang activities and crimes and extrajudicial killings. But they're saying that having to testify is a violation of their civil rights. So there's some sort of weird fight that they're trying to put on to prevent having to answer for their actions. But this is something I'm following. So I'll have more updates very shortly. Okay. But the LA County Sheriff's gangs have been a big problem since basically the 60s. And communities of color have been sounding the alarm for the whole time. But it's only thanks to really, really good journalism is coming to light. So
thank God for good journalism.
It still exists. What?
Yeah.
What?
I think there was one particular gang that I became aware of, but I don't remember what they were called.
I don't know. They have really scary sounding names. The
jelly beans was like the sharks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something. Yeah, they're really that doesn't sound good. It's a bad taste in your mouth. What was I going to say?
That would be my gang.
Yeah, the gummy sharks.
Yeah,
the gummy sharks.
Rep
your set. Rep your set, Bev.
Warm fuzzy kittens.
Yeah. So it was 6 episodes. And remember when we were watching the documentary, we talked about Donnie Stepp, not Johnny Depp. the bail bondsman.
The bail bondsman.
Yeah, he was played by sort of a more like grotesque kind of figure.
I have to admit, I didn't figure out that that's who he was supposed to be until like the 6th episode.
He didn't really look like the guy who was featured in the documentary.
And they didn't explain well like who he was. He just kept showing up at his house, and I thought he was like one of his supervisors. And I was like, it was very confusing to me. I thought it was the guy was supposed to be one of his supervisors from the police department, and then he was like going over to his house for advice or something, and
this story was so complex that it was difficult to keep track of.
It could have
everything
used
that was
a couple
going
more
on.
Episodes, right?
Yeah.
They could have extended it just maybe 2 or 3 more episodes, and then things maybe have been a little bit more clear. But
I just think there was a lot of characters.
Yep.
And it was hard to keep track of all of them and who they were and what their role was and what they were doing. It was difficult. A lot of I knew who the main characters were, but a lot of the side characters, I never really figured out who they were.
I wasn't sure if some of them were actually made up characters that were meant to just sort of represent a sort of type.
So Nicole, she was not a real character.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Okay.
I was like, because
that's
I
the
was
only
wondering
one.
if she was supposed to be sort of representing Ivan Bates in this story.
But she was an effective character in moving the story forward and getting us to see.
She was used as sort of like the viewer. Like she's figuring things out, she's sorting things out, and so you're along with her for the ride. She's the only one that I know of that was made up. All the other ones I think were real people.
Okay. Let's see. The overtime thing, I can't remember if it was Marlene who brought it up, but when they were talking about how their overtime paychecks were basically double what they already made, I was like, wow.
And they weren't actually working overtime.
Right.
You can do that?
I didn't really understand how they did that.
They're just fudging the paperwork.
And then there was a conversation in one of the scenes at the end with the mayor, and they're trying to talk about like the budget, and the commissioner was like, well, we're gonna have to cut somewhere, and she was like, well, you're not taking away from the kids, not my babies. But it makes total sense. I mean, this money has to go somewhere, this taxpayer money, right? So if they're fucking up and fudging their overtime, what does that do for the schools,
robbing
social
the taxpayers
problems?
and,
Pension and retirement funds. I mean, everybody is harmed by
so
this
they were robbing
corruption.
Everybody.
Exactly. Seriously. What?
Yeah, they were.
The whole and
the whole
settlements
city
that they had to pay out for
millions of dollars.
Yeah. Speaking of millions of dollars, you know that guy who got the 80-year-old man who got killed in that crash, which comes back over and over again throughout the series. One of the men who got popped for the planted drugs did get like $8 million from the city of Baltimore.
Oh.
And he left Baltimore because everybody knew he got this money, and they were fitting to rob him. So he left Baltimore, and he was in the car with his fiance, and he had PTSD from this whole situation.
Yeah.
He was getting real paranoid, and he shot his partner because he thought she was stealing from him. So I think that he went to jail maybe for a little bit. I don't know if he's still there, but again, just that's another, you can't get away from the ripples. They're so vast. I wanted to just say, I don't know if anybody noticed Wayne Jenkins' drink preferences, but what a bitch.
Yeah.
Mike's Hard Lemonade.
He should go to jail for that. Wine coolers, sir.
Yeah.
God, I was embarrassed for him.
Was he actually ordering a wine cooler? I thought he was doing that ironically. No, he was.
No, I didn't think so because it came up more than once in the show.
I only noticed it the one time, and I thought he was like making fun of somebody by ordering a wine cooler, but he was actually
ordering a wine cooler.
Those things are terrible.
I know. Like, can I just have a headache instead, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to give you one anyway.
Like, that's what I used to drink when I was 17. I mean, 21. When I started drinking.
Garçon, do you have the Zimas back there?
He was,
Some strawberry fields.
Boone's Strawberry Farms. or Strawberry Hill, whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, so they got into the uprisings after the murder of Freddie Gray in the paddy wagon, right? Freddie Gray saw the police and was scared. I don't know why police are so baffled by people running away from them being afraid, because a lot of times they will kill you. So Freddie Gray runs away. They put him in the car and give him a rough ride. The city erupts. No justice, no peace. And they had actual footage from Maybelline Mosley. Is that her? Mosley. Anyway, she was the state's attorney. They were like, the police were like, they're not being nice to us. And were basically like against the citizens for being upset at them for fucking this up so royally. The actors were provided a therapist on the set because of these really challenging scenes, which are really not that old. And keep happening.
Some of them had experienced it when it happened.
So the therapist was available to anybody who needed it when they were shooting these really, really difficult scenes. I thought that was so cool. So
one thing when you're talking about the uprising, and then afterward the police basically saying, well, we don't like being criticized for how we do our job, so now we're not going to do our job. And at one point they referred to the resultant slowdown, and I did not like that choice of words, because to me the resultant slowdown of the police, to me that implies that the uprising caused this slowdown of work. And in reality it was a choice. You know, how many of us, when we're working, if somebody tells us we need to do a better job, how many of us are allowed to go, oh, you don't like how I'm doing my job? Well, I'm just not going to do it, and you're going to have to pay me anyway. You know, it's like, how many of us get to do that, right?
I'm waiting for anybody to tell me if that is okay to do. I'm done waiting. Nobody said a word.
One of the results from that was Wayne Jenkins and his squad. They were still out there doing their thing, and they got a lot of praise for it.
Right.
So
yeah. I thought that was a really I loved that scene, because there was the scene afterwards when Jenkins was sitting in like some cop break room with some other cops, and they were listening to Maybelline Mosley say, I've heard your pleas for no justice and no peace, and I'm going to charge these officers with, I think, manslaughter or murder. And then he was like, how could she do that? He lost. He was like, how dare she? We're just doing our jobs. The outrage was so like hilarious to me, because it was so unnecessary and unwarranted. But then it also spoke to how complicated, Wayne Jenkins was. He really thought he was a good police officer.
Well, just like when one of the prosecutors said something about him being a dirty cop, he got so incensed. Yeah. And he was like, they're in a strip club, and he's just going off about it. And his coworkers were just laughing. They're like, well, you kind of are. And he's like, no, not like that.
Yeah. And at the last one of the last scenes in episode 6, it's not John Bernthal, it's Wayne Jenkins is in like this police academy talking to all of the police officers who were involved, even the commissioner, who was older than him and wouldn't have been in the academy at this time. So it was clearly a like vision. He was having a dream or something, a daydream. But he was like talking about how we're going to get all the drugs off the street. We're going to get all the guns off the street. We're going to do the right thing and good policing. And everybody's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah. And then he wakes up and he's in the prison yard.
Yeah.
Was that what that scene was? Oh, okay. I thought they were doing like a flashback, and like this was how he like got people on board with what he was doing.
I can see that. I think I thought that at first, but I mean, when you watch it all the way through,
okay.
It's like, he literally opens his eyes. And he's in the prison yard. And it's so funny to me how Wade Jenkins really thinks he got railroaded and thinks he's completely innocent.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
He still does. Yeah. He thinks
He
he's
believed
innocent.
his own lies. He was
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is very Trump-like.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's kind of a half and half. Like I'm not sure if he actually believes it or if he's so obsessed with how he's perceived that it's very important to him to, it's like from the Shakespeare, methinks the lady doth protest too much, I don't even know what that quote is from, but people use it for this sort of situation where like he needs people to think that he believes that he is innocent. So it's all about how other people perceive him.
Yeah.
I don't know why my avatar keeps
your avatar's laughing.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm so puzzled.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Your avatar is turned into Wade Jenkins.
Okay, that one was appropriate.
Now that one was appropriate. Yes. For those of you listening at home, I chose to use an avatar instead of putting on a hat this time, and it's being weird.
It's possessed.
It's possessed. It's laughing when things aren't funny.
That's making us laugh, and I enjoy it. I
like it.
Keep it up, Avatar.
All right, I'll keep it.
So I wanted to talk about the controversy about Sean Suiter's death.
Oh,
yeah.
Sean Suiter was the officer present when that crash happened and that 80-something-year-old man died after the crash of a heart attack. And he ended up leaving that gun trace task force squad to get on the homicide. And I think he thought, I'm out of there, scot-free, hands is clean. I don't got to worry about anything. That's all behind me until the feds come knocking on his door. And he was supposed to testify, I guess, later on that day or the next day. And there's a scene where he's driving around with his partner and he says, "Oh, I see a criminal over there. We got to go get him." And his partner's like, "Are you sure? Okay, dude, I'll just go with whatever you say." And they get out of the car and he's like, "No, I think he went this way. He was wearing this and that." And his partner's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll stand over here and get your back." And then he goes down an alley and you hear 3 gunshots and they find him with a gunshot wound to the head. This mystery assailant, nowhere to be found. And his partner didn't see what happened. He just heard it. And so the controversy is, did Sean Suiter unalive himself successfully or was it a murder? And it really is, it depends on who you ask, what the thoughts are. I don't know if you guys thought about it, what if you have any take on it or what.
Well, I looked it up after, and it says that he was shot in the head at close range with his own service weapon, which was recovered under his body. So,
how does that happen?
And it says that blood was found on the inside of Suiter's shirt sleeve. Suiter's DNA was found inside the barrel of his own Glock, and his death remains unsolved. Yeah, so I mean, it kind of does sound like suicide.
Nobody knows exactly what happened. The guy, I can't remember who it was on the podcast. He either directed or wrote the story. I don't remember who it was, but he believed that Suiter unalived himself. And the footage, I guess there was video footage of him behind that van. And he was looking anxious, and the things that they portrayed in the show that actually happened, but they don't know what happened after he went down the alley. They just don't know. And I think the official police position is that he unalived himself, but the coroner ruled it a homicide. And they believe that he did it because
his family wouldn't have
if he, so he wanted to make it look like a homicide. And they did get the benefits. So, but nobody really knows for sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was reading is that after he was found shot, then the police cordoned off and locked down the neighborhood where it happened for 6 days.
Wow.
Yeah. It says the area included 100 houses, a church, and 2 stores.
Holy shit.
Wow. Wow.
What they do for
one of their own,
one of their own,
when a citizen. Yeah.
Yep. And the officers were positioned around the area's perimeter, and they would stop residents, asking them for identification and preventing them from entering their own homes without identification.
Holy shit.
Members of the community later sued the city for the lockdown, alleging that the city violated residents' constitutional rights.
Yeah.
And the Baltimore Police Department paid $96,000 to settle the suit.
God.
And
That's
issued a formal apology.
But still, they're like bleeding money.
Yeah.
Because of the things that this police department does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it in my mind, it seems so simple. We could make a decision today to start doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But I don't get politics that much, but there must be something going on behind the scenes in the room where it happens that we aren't privy to, that makes it impossible. And it's frustrating. Like this is not what the citizens want, right?
No.
We want we own the city. Police can't own the city. One person can't own a city, right? It's a city. It's a community. It's a democracy. Like what? So the irony of that statement, I think, made the title so appropriate.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Whole case.
We are gathered here today to give you permission to plan the wedding that you want.
I'm Jessica Bishop.
And I'm Sari Wienerman.
And we're the hosts of the Bouquet Toss podcast.
Today's couples have to juggle so many things, from family expectations to outdated traditions and what's currently trending.
So to make it easier, we're going deep to figure out why we do weddings the way that we do, so you can decide what to keep and what to toss from your wedding day plans.
You are cordially invited to subscribe to the Bouquet Toss wherever you get your podcasts or at evergreenpodcast.com.
By the power vested in us, we pronounce you free to plan your day your way.
Hello, this is Dr. Grande, the host of True Crime Psychology and Personality. On my podcast, I explore and explain the pathology behind some of the most horrendous crimes and those who commit them. We discuss topics like narcissism, psychopathy, sociopathy, and antisocial personality disorder from a scientifically informed perspective. What is a narcissist? How do you spot a sociopath? What signs can you look for to protect yourself from these dangerous personalities? It's not just about the stories, but also the science and psychology behind them. So if you're interested in true crime or mental health, I'd encourage you to give my show a listen wherever you get podcasts.
Hey, I wanted to talk about, there were some great monologues in this series. Let's see. There's the Jenkins monologue when he says, "We own this city," after he got given the gun trace task force. Then there's the Jenkins speech when after he takes his plea and he's getting his sentence, he's got tears and he's so ashamed and he's a family man. Yeah. I was like, blah, blah, blah. Enjoy them 25 joints. And how the tables have turned. You hate to see it. Actually, and by hate to see it, I mean I love to see it. Yeah. The DOJ lady's speech about growing up in her neighborhood, in a wealthy white neighborhood, and how she turned out okay, but she talked about the abuse her brother suffered at the hands of the police. And I thought that was it really got me, that speech. And then the commissioner's speech at the end when he was talking about accountability, and he had all these plans. No more plainclothes police officers. We're not going to count, beans anymore. It's quality over quantity. And he admits that they should have known that there was all this corruption going on. And then he got fired. And then
they needed somebody to pin everything on so that they could make people feel like they were doing something.
Yeah, make people feel like they were doing something. That's right. And so they get this new commissioner who went to jail. He was not a good person either.
Nope.
He went to jail.
Did too.
Yes, for tax stuff.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Not my babies.
Not my babies. Yeah. Guess who's going to jail tonight? And then there was the war on drugs speech that the DOJ lady, DOJ lady was listening to this former police officer who's a teacher at the academy or something. I can't remember his name, or I'm not even sure if he was a real person or not, but he talked about, we lost the war on drugs and everybody knows it. And who's going to say it and then do something? I was like, woo, get this. Everybody on this show needs an Emmy and an Academy Award, a Tony, everything. And then there was that scene where Jenkins was speaking to the recruits, and if only all the words he had said were true, right? And then let's see. His drink choices were trash. The outfits. So I talked about the DOJ lady who's a full-figured woman who they dressed beautifully. The Ravens paraphernalia was everywhere. If you were like, I wonder what city does this show take place in? Like you forgot what We on the City was about. Just look at somebody's hat or t-shirt because they love the Baltimore Ravens. And they
Orioles too.
Yes. I mean, it was, I mean, I guess I don't know anybody from Baltimore except for the affirmative murder guys, but people from Baltimore really love Baltimore. And I think that's cool. Pride for your city. The corruption part is not great, but
no, not so good.
I totally get loving your city. And then there was this one scene where one of the police officers, who I think it was Gongo, I'm not sure what
Gonzo.
He was
something. I
he was
know
one of the really
about.
dark-skinned black men.
Yeah.
But he gets out of his car and he's wearing like this silk purple shirt. Did anybody see this? Was anybody else like, what
yes.
am I looking at?
Yeah.
It was the early 2000s. I guess maybe that was a thing at that point. I don't know. But that was not a wonderful costume choice. But and it's like the buttons were like unbuttoned in the
I did notice that one. Yeah. He's a good looking actor, but then and that's what made the shirt stand out.
Yeah.
It's like
why did they do him like that?
What happened?
And then the last thing, there were some scenes from the documentary that we just heard people talking about and describing, but we actually got to see like it kind of in real time. Like the attorney Bates, he was that light-skinned attorney who was heavily featured in the documentary that we watched, We Got a Monster. And he was talking about in the documentary how Wayne Jenkins was in trial. We see him on the stand and they're talking about how smart Wayne Jenkins was, but he must have said something that triggered Jenkins, and Jenkins stopped him in the hallway after that hearing. And I remember in the documentary, the light-skinned handsome attorney talking about that exchange, but we actually got to see it, and I was like really excited to actually see it play out. It was a good scene. And that's it for my thoughts. What else is there? We got about 10 minutes left. What do y'all think?
I liked the monologue about the war on drugs. The whole thing was still is so stupid. But the concept that in a war you need warriors, and in a war, you've got one side versus the other. So that's when it really started, this division of one side versus the other, calling it a war, And another thing I was thinking about when we went to Fort Edmonton today, because it goes over the history of Edmonton, but they had a sign from the Prohibition era or the pre-Prohibition era when they were talking about the ills of alcohol. And they didn't have Prohibition in Canada, but they did in the US. Yes. So that actually caused crime, making something that people are gonna do illegal creates crime. And they created bootleggers who would go back and forth between Canada and the US, getting alcohol from Canada and bringing it into the US, and people making money that way. And so that's essentially did the same thing. This, you make, you really start to go after drugs, or you make certain things illegal. It creates crime.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and then you need more police.
Yeah. It's this stupid machine. It's a stupid machine.
And crime is completely subjective. I mean,
so
alcohol was illegal in the United States, and now it's huge.
It was a huge crime back then,
Yeah.
And now it's like you could just, as long as you're of the appropriate age, you can go to the store and buy it,
Yeah.
Like, so, but if we made it illegal again, we could create all kinds of new criminals.
Yeah. And the economy of crime is so disgusting. I hate it here. So you have the police who are enforcing the crime and then locking people up. Then you have the prosecutors and the DA who get paid to build these cases against citizens. Then you get them put into incarcerated buildings, sometimes owned by the state, sometimes owned by private corporations who make money off these beds and cells being filled by citizens and human beings for profit. And so it just
it's just a money-making machine. It's terrible.
Gross. Yeah.
It's like, how do we back this up? We just need to get rid of a lot of these laws. And I mean, we need some
Republicans
laws,
are not going to be.
But I know. It's just like
on that.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I thought of when watching the Freddie Gray uprisings in the show is, I mean, there were people breaking other people's property, right? Smashing windows of cars that weren't theirs and burning buildings down. And I understand the anger behind that. But then what do we do? What could we do with all this anger to effectively create change? Like, I would have liked to know after these uprisings, who's on the ballot, what elections are coming up, where can we go to vote for these people, whose policies are hurting us, whose policies are helping us. Like, if we saw that on the news, or if there was a website that we could go to easily have access to the information that would help us, like, organize and strategize. Sometimes it's demonstrations and uprisings. But what do we do after that? That was where I was thinking about that a lot in this past couple of days after watching this. Like, what do we do? And I'm just waiting for somebody to tell me. I'm happy to help. I just what do I do? So, yeah. But this was really, really good. I might even watch it again. Yeah.
I think I need to watch it again because I think the fact that I had watched the documentary first and I already knew what happened, what started me focusing more on evaluating whether or not they were doing a good job of retelling the story instead of letting it tell me the story that they wanted to tell me. And it wasn't until the last 2 episodes where I really let it go and let them tell me the story they were trying to tell me instead of, so I think I need to watch it again with a new set of eyes. Yeah, with some of the things that you guys have said, and maybe I would get something.
I'd listen to the podcast too. It's really good.
It's really helpful. Like it had me going, oh, okay.
Yeah,
It just made it more. I'll listen to a podcast about anything, but especially a TV show. Yeah. What
Any final thoughts, Marlene?
Yeah.
I wrote, I thought Wayne Jenkins' descent from grace was pretty sad too. Like, he had a shitty trainer, or what would they call him?
Yeah. What
mentor.
are they called? Mentor?
Yeah. But yeah, we were talking about that, how it trickles down. Like, you teach someone bad habits and they're going to teach someone bad habits. And because it looked like he was trying to, how they all are, how they're so gung-ho and trying to be a good cop fresh out of the academy. And then they're like, nah, F all that. This is Baltimore.
I wonder about that sometimes, that because I've mentioned before I dated a police officer for a while, and he was fresh out of the academy, and he was, I want to help people and all of that sort of thing. And I wonder sometimes, I wonder if he's still got that mindset, or if they managed to drag him down.
Spoiled,
jaded.
Ruined.
But I think it can't be an easy job, and I think that kind of similar to, like, if you're a therapist and all you ever deal with all day long, like, there's actually a high suicide rate for psychologists, psychiatrists.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. if all you see every day is people with really difficult problems and struggling, and I think it starts to color your thoughts after a while. And so I think, with police officers, if all they're focusing on is criminals, then they start seeing everybody as criminals,
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if there's something we can do to make the job less that, I don't know. Like, yeah, because I mean, I agree that it's broken. The way that police work is done is broken. I do also think that we need somebody, when people are out murdering people,
Sure,
stop them from
We need Olivia Benson.
Yeah, we need somebody out there.
Yeah, or Bobby, bring Bobby Gorin back.
Yeah,
that's one.
Yeah. So I mean, how do we change this? Yeah, that's.
Well, I think that I'm glad. I mean, by now there's a bunch of Baltimore police properties, right? There's The Wire. There's We Own the City. We Got a Monster. And with every piece of content about this stuff, people are having conversations about it like we're doing now. And so I think that's a great start, right? I don't know what the answer is. I just know what we're doing now ain't working.
Yeah.
But I think it's a big problem.
More conversations.
So more conversations. It's going to take a lot of ideas. It's going to take trial and error. Maybe the first things we try out suck, but we just keep trying to make it better. I mean,
yeah,
I think that's what it's all about. Otherwise, I really don't want to be here anymore.
May I be excused?
May I be excused? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad we watched it. Thank you, Marlene.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
All right, y'all.
Yeah.
So this has been Fruitloops Video Club. Whew, that was good. I'm Wendy. That's Beth. That's Minnie. And Marlene is joining us. And this is for our Patreons. And we're so grateful for all of you. And look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there.
It sure is.
Especially in Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Hey, are you planning to get an updated COVID-19 vaccine?
Yep. I don't want to get seriously sick and miss out on spending time with friends and family.
Does it cost a lot? I don't have insurance.
If you don't have health insurance, or if your insurance doesn't cover an updated COVID-19 vaccine, you can get one for free with the Bridge Access program. Just look for places that participate in Bridge Access on vaccines.gov.
Sounds good. Bridge Access on vaccines.gov.
A message from CDC.
We are gathered here today to give you permission to plan the wedding that you want.
I'm Jessica Bishop.
And I'm Sari Wienerman.
And we're the hosts of the Bouquet Toss podcast.
Today's couples have to juggle so many things, from family expectations to outdated traditions and what's currently trending.
So to make it easier, we're going deep to figure out why we do weddings the way that we do, so you can decide what to keep and what to toss from your wedding day plans.
You are cordially invited to subscribe to the Bouquet Toss wherever you get your podcasts or at evergreenpodcast.com.
By the power vested in us, we pronounce you free to plan your day your way.